Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be showing you this card. So this I'm calling a quad pillar acetate card. So it's like the double pillar acetate, but I've just stuck one on the other side. And so as you can see, you've got a space on the back to write. That's what it looks like from the top view, like that. And then all you need to do is you fold it off to one side like that to fold it flat, and it fits. So if you see the top view, I'm not going to squish it completely because my things aren't quite dried, but yeah, it fits in an envelope for a 5x7 card. If you have got, if you haven't got a fancy die like this one, so I used this intricate die that cuts out of a panel. If you haven't got anything like that, you can go ahead and use peel offs. You can use anything really. Even little, you could maybe do butterflies on it going across. You could do anything. You really could. Your imagination is the limit. So you can do it with anything really. If you haven't got acetate, again, that's not a problem either, because what you can do is you can use normal card pieces. If you've got a punch, you can maybe make the edges frilly. There's literally so much scope for this card. I really like it. I really like it. I think it's turned out really well. So yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, so for this card, we need a few bits, but pretty much what we had for the double pillar acetate card. Just slight tweaks, but very similar in a lot of ways. So I've redone one of my acetate panels just to speed things up a little bit. So you need two base cards that are 5 inches by 7.5. So these are going to form your pillars, and your final finished card is going to be, when folded flat, it's going to be 5 inches by 7 inches landscape. Okay, so yeah, so this is why this is slightly different. So this is 5 inches tall and 7.5 inches wide, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to score on both pieces at 3/4 of an inch, at 1.5, 2.25, 3 inches, 4.5, 5.25, 6 inches, and 6.75. All the measurements will be up on the screen, so if you need to pause, you can. So do that on both of your pieces of card. Now what we need to do is do what we always do when we do these cards, is trim off 1/8 on this side and 1/8 on that side, and the same with this one. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done that. So now we're going to mounting fold all of our score lines. Also, just quickly to note, the card I've used again is, as I always do with these, it's quite thin. So between 180 and 200 GSM, or maybe 210 maximum. You don't want anything thicker than that, because it'll end up just being too bulky in your on your card and in your envelope. So I'm going to go ahead and fold these. Okay, so you should end up with two pieces that look like that. So now what we're going to do is you open it out and turn it down, so you've just got all the mounting folds. And we're going to put red tape on this end piece and on this end piece here. Okay, so you should end up with two pieces that look like that. So if we take one of those pieces, turn it over, we're going to fold it along the second score line, take off the tape, and then that next score line along, we're going to fold along there and stick it down. If we turn it over, just push that cube out of the way, the pillar that you've just done out of the way. Same on this side, fold along the second score line, peel off your tape backing, and then fold it along that next score line and stick it down. And that should give you that classic, as we come to know it, should give you that classic thing there. Now, for some reason, mine are bumping up against each other. So I'm just going to go in with a ruler. You might end up with that. Oh, no, I can't go with a ruler. I'm just going with my fingers in. For some reason, it's not quite sitting properly. So all I can guess is I might have got one of my score lines wrong. I'm not sure. For some reason, that's not sitting. It's not sitting properly. But anyway, we will force it into submission. There we go, that'll do. Okay, so I'm going to do the same with this one. Okay, so you should end up with two of your pillars. So obviously we just did the one before for the double. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and these are going to be stuck back to back like that. Now you want to make sure that this front panel here is relatively flat, okay, and the back panel as well, but particularly the front is the one you want to look at, because we're going to stick a big panel on the front there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to use, actually going to use wet glue. You can use red tape if you want, or you can use wet glue. Whatever strong glue or tape you have is what you need to use for this. So we're going to put a line on here. So this is the flat part of our pillars, and this is the other, and we're going to stick the two flat parts together. So I stick these like this, and you also want to make sure top and bottom, oops, top and bottom they're level, so it stands up, so you haven't got one higher than the other, and then just give them a bit of a squish together. So that there I can see is lovely and flat, which is wonderful. The back, oh, the back's quite flat too, that's good. So that's what we want. So you should end up with that. So you're stuck here and you're stuck here, but this bit is still open and this bit is still open. Okay, so if I put it at the top view, you can see these top bits are open and this is not. So now we're going to decorate our sides, and then we're going to add our acetate in a moment. So you will need 4 of these little strips. Okay, so you need 4 mats that are 5/8 by 4 7/8, and then you need 5 patterns that are 1/2 inch by 4 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick them on. If you turn it sideways, where it opens up, it's these 2 panels here you want to stick it on, and this side here, these 2 panels. This bit here where it doesn't open up, we're going to put a whole big panel on there in a minute. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and stick these down first. Okay, so you should end up with that. So that's your opening part there. There's your opening part there. So now we're going to do the front and the back. And for the front and the back, you need a matte panel that is 2 matte panels that are 1 3/8 by 4 7/8, and 2 pattern panels that are 1 1/4 by 4 3/4. So we're going to go ahead, stick that on the front and this one on the back. Okay, so I'm only sticking one of these panels down. I've just had a thought. I'm just sticking one down. I'm not going to stick the other one down because I need to still be able to move these open, so I can put the acetate in. And if I stick that down both sides, I'm not going to have any flexibility there. So I need to have a bit of flexibility there so I can get the acetate in. So I've just stuck the front one down. I'll leave the back one. I'll come back to the back one in a minute. So what we need to do now is get some acetate. If you don't want to use acetate, you could use card. And have card coming out instead. So it's completely up to you how you want to do it. So that's the front of my pillars. So you want 2 pieces of acetate, and these pieces of acetate need to measure 3.5 by 5 inches. Okay, now this one comes with a film on it, so I'm going to take this film off in a minute. And what you can do is, if you've got acetate, you can use peel offs like we did before, or if you've got a die. So I've got this fancy die, and it actually cuts out of a page. So what I did was I just made sure that I tested it first and made sure it was the right size, just slightly bigger, and then just trimmed it off. And what I've done is, and I'm going to do it now to show you, is I've got a piece of, this is the paper I use. This is just like pattern paper. It was in a 6x6 pad from my stash. And then I'm using Stick It. Now, I don't know if you've ever come across Stick It before. It is really helpful. So this is Stick It, and basically you can get, it comes in A4 sheets or A5 sheets. So either half of this or the full length. And basically it's like a double-sided tape almost, but it's so papery. Like it hasn't got a plasticky finish, it's like papery, so you can die cut with it. So it's really, really good. And you can basically use this for all sorts of things. You can use it for, it's also acid-free, environmentally friendly, sustainable FSC paper, recyclable, water-based adhesive as well. And so I'll put a link down below for that, if I can find one. I'm sure I'll be able to find one. So I've just cut a piece that's the right size for my panel. And then what I'm going to do is turn this over. And on the back, you can actually see where you can kind of peel it off. You can peel the backing off. So if I just peel that backing off like that, and then I'm going to stick this onto, so I'm going to stick the non-sticky bits. This is what I like about the fact they've kind of divvied it up. Now this, it's not, I haven't cut it quite big enough. It's a tiny bit small at the top and bottom, but that's fine. Just going to stick that down like that, and then I'm going to flip this bit over and peel this bit off. And the good thing about this is not only can you use it on paper and stuff like that, but if you wanted to do foiling, you could also do that. So for example, with that die cut, you can see how intricate that is. If I wanted to, I could get a piece of card. I could put, you know, thin, you don't want to go too thick, but thin card, you know, I mean like 200, 210, something like that. Put a layer of this on one side and on the other side. So you're basically making it double-sided adhesive card. And then put my die on top, run it through, take it off, and then the whole of this top section, so for example where this bit here is, that would all be covered in sticky if you're doing it both sides. And then what you can do is you can then put foiling papers all over, you know, foils. Make sure you use the right ones. I think some are hot foils and some are full adhesive, so make sure you use the right one. Put it all over the top and give it a good old rub, and then you end up with a foiled die cut design. So that's another use for it. And also glitter as well. So it's yeah, there's lots of things you can do with it, so it's really good. Or you can just stick it on one side like we have here, and I'm now going to go and die cut this out. Okay, so I've run it through, and if you look at this, if you turn it over, can you see how well that's cut? So if I use, there are other, you know, sticky products on the market. Sometimes I find that it just doesn't cut very well, and this is quite thin paper, we'll give it that. But even so, I'm really impressed with how well that cuts out. That's literally no problem at all. And then you're left with all these bits. And if you wanted to, you could paper piece these back in. I mean, that to me is a massive job. If I had time, I would probably do that. But you could use that. You could use those pieces and paper piece them back into a, you know, a design or do an inlay or whatever. So anyway, let's just clear these bits away. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just literally going to, I'm just going to trim away these little extra bits that we don't need, and then I'm going to bring my acetate strip in, acetate panel in, take off the protective backing. This is a Trimcraft premium acetate. I'm not sure if they still do it, but they do something similar. You could use any kind of acetate you want. If you wanted to go for a heavyweight one, you could. You don't want to go too flimsy. This one's a 0.20 mil, and I find it really useful. It's just very, you know, useful to use. So what we do is turn this over, and on the back, this entire section, if you go for an edge, find an edge, this entire section is covered in this backing. So I'm going to very carefully peel it off because it is so fine. And then I'm going to take my piece of acetate. Actually, I'm going to do it the way around. I was going to lay it on top, but I think I'm going to do it this way around. It's just being able to see where your acetate is versus where everything else is. I'm just going over this with a little circling design, little circling motion, just to get it all stuck down. You want to give it a good stick. If you want to, you can turn it down and give it a, turn it around and give it a rub on the back if you want to. And then all I'm going to do now is just trim off anywhere that it's over. So it's a little bit too much at the top here. Just going to trim those bits off. And same at the bottom here. And a little bit on the edge. Okay, so there's my two designs, my two pieces done. So now what we're going to do is take this pillar, and I'm going to put a line of red tape just on the inside here and on the other side as well. Okay, so I've just stuck some red tape in there. This is why you need to not stick that back section on, because that's nice and flat, but you need to be able to flex these so you can get into there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel off this piece here at the front. I'm going to take one of my pieces. I'm going to put it in, make sure it's all lined up, and then shut that onto there like that. Okay, and then we're going to open up the back and do the same with the back. So we're going to stick that down, and it kind of helps if you can decide which way you want to fold it flat in your envelope. So I'm going to go this way. Then when you stick it, just makes it a little bit easier. Sometimes your pillars might collapse in on themselves like that. That's fine. Just give them a bit of a coax out, and you can soon get them back up and running. So that's the front. That's one side done. So I'm going to turn it around, and we're going to do the other side. So just peel that off. Take my acetate, line it up, put it in place, and then I'm going to shut that onto there like that. And then peel the backing off, and then stick it down, whichever way you're going to stick it. So that way for me. Okay, so that's so from the top it looks like that, and from the front it looks like that. Now there is another way of doing this. You don't necessarily have to have the 4 in the middle. I was thinking of another way of doing it, which I am going to do another time. But I just think because we've already done these pillars, I like the fact that you don't have to measure on your acetate where halfway is. You instantly know. You just put it into the little corner there, just line it up with the edge, and then everything's all fine. So that's why I decided to go ahead and do this video, not my amended version. So that's that. So that should then measure 5 by 7. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put a greeting on the front. So I've got this happy birthday to you that's going to go on the front. And then I'm going to cut out a similar circle for the back, and that's where your message will go. Now, if this offends you, I don't mind this because it's white and it's all glued. There's no like splodges of glue anywhere. It doesn't actually bother me that I can see white on the back there. But if you wanted to, you could cut out another piece and have that over the top. If you wanted, it's really up to you what you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to stick down the front sentiment, and then we're going to put our panel on the back, and then we're going to stick the back sentiment, the message part, on as well. So I've gone ahead and cut out a circle. Now this is just slightly bigger than the one on the front, which actually I don't mind, because then when you've got this here, if I just lay this on the back here so you can see on the mat, see through it, if you line it up, you kind of get like a shadow behind, and I don't mind that because it kind of gives that kind of effect of it all coming out. So I'm going to go ahead now, and on the back I'm just going to stick down that panel that we left off in the beginning. So that's going to go there like that. And then I'm going to stick my message panel on the back. If you obviously want to stamp this, then do it before you stick it down. I'm going to leave mine blank because I'd like to I've got a happy birthday on the front, so I'll just put a message on the back. Okay, so I'm just going to add a few little gems. I'm using the Lucy Shop, the Crystal Collection, the Sweet Pea. And as you can hopefully see, they are beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I love her gems. They're a little bit more expensive than, like obviously your cheap ones, but they are so well worth it, honestly. And also you're supporting a small business as well. So I'm going to go ahead now and stick these on in some relevant places. Okay, so I went ahead and add some gems on. I'm not going to touch it too much because they're still drying. But yeah, so there's your finished card. So hope you liked it. As you can see, you can see the gems. I quite like the gems on the acetate because it kind of gives it that floaty gem look. Because some of them are obviously stuck on the actual die cut, but some of them are just floating. And obviously, if you didn't want to, you don't have to have a rectangular piece. As long as it's 7 inches by 5, you could maybe, you could do what you want with it. Really, you could really go to town. You could even use a thick vellum if you wanted to as well. So yeah, so I hope you like it. And obviously it stands up like that, and it folds flat for posting. I'm not going to squish it because it will squish all my gems, but it folds off to one side like that for posting, and fits in an envelope for 5 by 7 cards. So yeah, So I hope you have a go. Hope you like it. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. I'm very close to 10k now. In fact, by the time this video goes out, who knows, I might even be at 10k. So thank you ever so much for all of those who have subscribed. If you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscription button. It costs you nothing, but it really helps me out. Okie doke, so I'll see you soon. Bye.